Welcome to the Thunder Hour Podcast, hosted by Trey and James Hamilton, and produced by Leif Dietrich.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Thunder Hour Podcast. This is going to be episode 19. Today we're going to discuss, obviously, season recap of the month of February, which is now concluded, and we'll be lining up playoff series, talking about potential outcomes for the Thunder, as well as other teams across the Western Ontario Super Hockey League. And might as well get it started talking about yesterday. Thunder had a back-to-back weekend to close out the regular season. Friday night in Petrolia, and then a Saturday home game here in Tillsonburg against the Alvidston Killer Bees, who came down to the Thunderdome looking for 2 points to hold their own standings within the top 5 in the league. And we might as well just roll the highlight package right away. We're just going to cut right to it. These are Tillsonburg Thunder highlights brought to you by Domino's Pizza. Enjoy.
Right. Alvidston 3-1 in their last 4. Tillsonburg 0-4, 4-game losing streak. This one, it has a weird feel to it. Tillsonburg, they've had some short benches, some injuries. Alvidston, they're young, they're fast, they're not fazed by some of these bigger, stronger, more experienced teams. I'm looking forward to this. This should be a great matchup tonight, Raji. What are you thinking?
Well, okay, so you have Tillsonburg coming into the game. They've scored 130 times.
Yeah.
Alvidston, 125. It's going to be a scorer's dream today.
It's going to be a great game. I definitely think it's going to be high-flying. Tillsonburg, a little bit of a short bench again tonight. They're not running their full complement, but this is a established organization. Looking forward to what they can do out there. Puck is dropped. Carson Perry working in wide on Barletta. Backhand pass. Up the wall, it's going to be on the tape of Bowers. Bowers. Back to the high point, that's Chandler. Back for Bowers. All the way across, what a play! Killer Bees strike first. Aiden Kruder. And the Killer Bees score on the power play. 1-0 Alvidston. 7:33 to play here in the first.
Well, and you know what? On a penalty like too many men on the ice, that's a terrible one to be.
It ticks under 30 seconds. Oban, back for Barletta. Barletta through a screen, off a leg, they score! Brendan Barletta might have been deflected in front by Thompson. Thunder even the score on the power play. Looks like Sheldon Thompson might have got off his foot or off the mid part of his stick. Either way, Thunder capitalized, and we're tied up at 1, Raji. Here we go.
And you see the life just brought back into this building after a goal. Momentum is everything. If you can bag a couple at this point, goals usually happen in bunches in this league. Tillsonburg, no stranger to scoring in bunches. That's a big goal to get the crowd.
Goals in his last 3 games combined, with that shutout in Tilbury and then the 2-1 game where he battled Evan DeBrouwer, who's a guy, when you're a goaltender, you're going to lose to him most nights. Here's the turnover. Hutchison, Thompson, Hutchison, and shoots, save to Cody, rebound, goal! Sheldon Thompson, a 2-goal period, and the Thunder take the lead. Their first lead of the night, and what feels like their first lead in 2 weeks, Raji. 2-1 here at the 9:58 mark, and Thompson's got his second of the night.
Back-to-back goals for Sheldon Thompson. This one at even strength. Comes with 9:58 remaining here in the second period. Tillsonburg takes their first lead of the game, 2-1, and obviously you can see the exuberation from
Thompson and Kudo might have a 2-on-1. Under 10 seconds to play. Thompson going to the net off the goalpost from Kudo. That close to making it 3-1. Now the 2-on-1 the other way. McEwen up, shoots, scores with under a second. With under a second to play.
Can I interject? McEwen, so smart. He looked at the clock and saw how much time was left, and he come down and he knew how much exact time he needed to shoot that puck, and a buzzer beater here in Tillsonburg. Oh my God.
There was
Oh my God, Dan.
0.06 seconds to play in the second period.
Have you ever seen anything?
No, that was insane. You get the goal posted out at one end. They're going to try to make the play the 1 second. Now Carson Perry sprung, might be a breakaway. In he comes, he's got Finley. Oh, big hit! Mike Finley, what a hit! Perry's down. There's a slash by Hutchison, not called. Now it might be a breakaway the other way. Thompson, here he comes. Sheldon Thompson in a row. Deeks, shoots. Oh, what a stop by DeConing. Back and forth. Rowley's going to take it out. And that's going to kill it. They want the 1 point, so. But it's not going to get you first place, so.
Okay, so Trey, what's on the line? What do you want to talk about?
Well, so that deadlocks Tillsonburg with Stratford, but doesn't matter because Stratford has beat Tillsonburg both times.
So Stratford has the tiebreaker.
Stratford and Tillsonburg are now tied at 34.
34,
yeah. So that Abraham works in. Abraham, inside, outside move. Oh, and Dakota goes down. It's a 2-on-0. 2-on-0. That's a goal. What a play.
Raymond's down.
Both goalies are down right now, folks. What is going on? Pandemonium in Tillsonburg. I have not seen a game like this in my lifetime.
Gotta give it to him, man.
What a play that time. And you split the season series 2-2.
But I don't know, it's regulation wins.
Yeah, it comes down to ROW, yeah.
I don't know, I'm not sure. But anyway, Trey, take us 101.
James McEwen, Jamie McQueen, the two Jimmies out there. It doesn't get any better than this. Oh my goodness.
Oh man, this is great. Look, and the goalies are out so far too. That's awesome.
Because the goalie's your face-off man. You win. Oh, look, McEwen right away. McEwen in, scores.
Oh my God.
Alvinston wins it in overtime. James McEwen, and congratulations Stratford, Mighty Expedite Trophy winners. After that one,
A thriller.
what a game here in Tillsonburg. A 10 out of 10.
McEwen goes forward on the face-off and it.
So those were Tillsonburg Thunder highlights brought to you by Domino's Pizza. Hope you guys enjoyed them. Last night was a barn burner. It was a great game, start to finish. Both teams came out with they were just driving. It was a high energy game. It felt like a playoff game for sure, start to finish. There's some good tight forechecking. There's really good back checking, good penalty kill from both teams. Alveston comes out with the triple overtime 3-2 final, the win in Tillsonburg. So Tillsonburg gets the 1 point. And for those who were unaware, Stratford earlier on in the day yesterday took care of business 8-4 at home against the visiting Elora Rocks to secure 34 points with a 16-6-2 record. Tillsonburg with the overtime loss last night and the regulation loss on Friday in Petrolia would also secure a 16-6-2 record. So that was all she wrote. All matters concluded in terms of the regular season in the Western Ontario Super Hockey League. And with that overtime loss, as I said, 16-6-2 for the Thunder. And with the Irish beating the Thunder 5-0 in Tillsonburg and then 7-4 in Stratford. The two regular season matchups obviously go to the Irish, so tiebreakers in the Washel. First and foremost, obviously, although it's a point-based system, our regulation wins. So say Tillsonburg had 13 wins instead of 12, and then take away the two overtime losses, Tillsonburg would have taken first place. But obviously Stratford and Tillsonburg with identical records, it comes down to the first tiebreaker, which is head-to-head. So, and Stratford did dominate the head-to-head this year, concluding what's, as we've said, has been now a 7-game losing streak against the Irish. So obviously some unfinished business there, and we'll talk about if the Thunder are able to get into another opportunity to see them, where it would be down the line, et cetera, et cetera. So in terms of the game yesterday, it was a tough contest to lose for the Thunder. I thought they played their best game in over a month, almost, since I'd say probably their game at home against Tilbury, when Tilbury came in with a short bench. Thunder went on a little streak there and ended the season with a 5-game losing streak, starting off with the loss to Elora in Tillsonburg on the Tuesday night. And then they opened February in Alvinston, and they brought a very short bench, only 11 guys down to Alvinston. and the Killer Bees beat them in that contest 7-3. And the month kept on rolling on. We went down to Stratford the following Friday night and lost to the Irish in kind of a wild back-and-forth game. Stratford jumped out to a 4-0 lead. Tillsonburg climbed back into it. They were down 5-4 at one point heading into the third period, and then Brody Smith got the sixth goal of that game to secure the win for the Irish, and then obviously the seventh for the icing on top of the cake, the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae, whatever you want to say. Stratford took that one 7-4, so Tillsonburg 3-game losing streak. And then heading into this weekend, we went down to Petrolia to take on our league-determined rival, the Petrolia Squires. Thunder were 3-0 against the Squires heading into that game. And frankly, I thought Friday night and Saturday night, like these past two games, the Thunder did really pick up their play. I thought there's still areas of the game where, things aren't clicking. The power play hasn't been great. There's been some miscommunication. I haven't really liked a lot of the breakouts. They haven't had a ton of sustained offensive zone time, but I thought, the forecheck from the Kudo and Thompson line with Hutchison, I thought they've been really good the last couple games. Again, I thought obviously defensively we're missing a lot of guys right now, but I think the guys who have been in the lineup, I think they've stepped up. I think they've done an exceptional job. Mike Finley actually in Petrolia started out that game at forward. It was funny to see Big Finn rumbling up and down the ice. But it's been tough. I thought they played a good 2 games. 4-2 was the final score on Friday night in Petrolia, and then obviously, as you guys saw there, 3-2 the score in Tillsonburg last night over Alvidston. I think the biggest difference maker for those last 2 games, I think it's just been a few of those bounces, right? Like, that's hockey. It's you can't make excuses, but the old cliche of you got to be good to be lucky and lucky to be good, I think it definitely does bode well. That's why Jamie named his team up in Stratford the Fighting Irish, because he knows nobody is luckier than the Irish. So, all jokes aside, though, last couple games, last 5, to be honest with you, it's been a culmination of things for the Thunder that have not gone well. The efforts haven't been there. The numbers haven't been there. The guys, we have so many injuries right now. We'll talk about the injuries in a bit. But, it's hard to show up to a game with 12 or 13 guys when you're going up against an opponent who's got 20 guys on the bench and in the lineup and expect to win. But you know what? They still put up a good effort in the majority of those contests. They hung right in there in Stratford. I think minus that slow start, a couple squeaky goals on Sags and early in that game, I think Thunder could have easily taken that game. And then in Petrolia, again, it was a tight contest. It was hard fought. It went right down to the wire. Petrolia pulled away late in the third. They got a couple of nice goals. And then even last night, Alvinston, it's a one-on-one. It's triple overtime. It's a cliche. It's a joke. I hate the one-on-one overtime. Personally, I think it's not hockey. I think it's Bush League. I think it makes our league look bad. I think that they wanted to be, inventive and follow this new wave and, change hockey and pull away from Hockey Canada. And, yeah, I don't like shootouts. I don't think anybody does. I'm a goalie. I hate shootouts. But I think to have one-on-one overtime, I think is a joke. And you might say, oh, well, you're just saying that because you're a Thunder fan and they lost in one-on-one overtime last night. No, I couldn't have cared less if the Thunder would have won last night in one-on-one overtime. I think it's a joke. I think it's a bad look. I don't think it's hockey. I barely think 2-on-2 is hockey. I think this league needs to do 4 minutes of 4-on-4, 3 minutes of 3-on-3, and then play 2-on-2 until it's over if they really want to make that big of a difference. Or as me and Dad were talking about earlier, if you really want to make that big of a difference and avoid shootouts, who cares about ties? Let's just go with ties. Each team gets a point. You go 3-on-3 for 5 minutes, 2-on-2 for 5 minutes. If nothing happens at the end of that, each team comes out with a point, and it's a tie on the standings board. Because, just to avoid a shootout, to have a one-on-one, and you guys saw in the highlights, McEwen and McQueen both tried to win the draw forwards. Both guys took a gamble, and McEwen won the draw, chipped it behind McQueen. McQueen had pushed it trying to go the other way, and it's instantly a breakaway. There's no defense, obviously. And Raymond, because the goaltenders had been way out at the top of the circles, just in case their guy won the draw back, they could tee it up there and then try to get a breakout going or head to the bench even and go 2-on-1, get an empty net, just go for it all. I don't like it. I don't like one-on-one. I think it's cliche. Like I said, I think it's just Bush League, personally. But, it is what it is. You can't fight it. although my displeasure with the one-on-one, that's not going to be my solo talking point in this episode. So we'll keep our focus on the playoffs. I'm just going to cut this now, and then we'll jump back into it in a second, and we'll start breaking down the playoff series for the Thunder and also the rest of the Washel. All right, folks. So the Thunder Hour podcast has been a blast for me. I've had a great time doing it. Leaf and I started up the podcast back in September. We started talking about the Thunder every week since, it's crazy to think about, but the end of September, preseason game, here we are, all these months later, and the season's come to an end. So regular season's over. The real season begins now, and so I'm just going to update you guys on what I'm planning on doing for the postseason and going forward from there with Thunder Hour podcast. So today I'm going to be doing obviously my standard episode, as you guys are seeing now, and what I'm going to do from here on out is I'm going to do a series recap at the end of each series that the Thunder advance. So no more weekly episode, no more after every game. See, like the 4-game losing streak makes it frustrating. 5 games. It's tough to sit down and talk about. Obviously, you want to talk about the team when they're winning or when they're losing. And I mean, I could be the podcast guy for the Orangeville Blitz and have to talk about, 2-22 team. That'll be painful, but that's beside the point. I feel the podcast in some areas can be distracting. Obviously, I feel like I want the guys to go out and focus on the postseason, not focus on things I'm saying or anybody else is saying. Just go out, focus on winning hockey games, and don't let my opinions or what I say matter. And I know a lot of them will tell you it doesn't matter, but at the same time, I'm a busy guy myself. I have a lot going on in life, so I'm not going to commit to a weekly show, but I am going to do a post-series recap every series. So we're going to break down the playoff series now, but I just want to address that with you guys that Thunder Hour podcast from here until the end of the season is going to be this episode now, and then we're going to break down every series at the end of the series itself. So our first round series is going to be against the Strathroy Jets. And for example, say the Thunder win in 5. Well, in 3 weeks from now, or 2.5, you guys are going to see me breaking down that series. If they lose in 4, it's the same difference. I'm going to be here. I'm going to talk about it. And then when the season comes to an end, obviously, hopefully, with a championship. If not, either way, we're going to do a year-end podcast, which is going to be Dad and I, Leaf, whoever wants to be on, and we'll talk about the end of the season completely, where it all comes to an end, and hopefully that's with the championship. And other than that, I just want to break down here in the second clip of the podcast what we're planning on doing for our going forward. And as I said, it's going to be a series recap, and then hopefully it'll end with the championship. But that's going to be the plan going forward for Thunder Hour podcast. Now it's time to break down the playoff series, the standings, etc. And we're going to get down in the podcast. We're going to talk about all of that. So stick around here on Thunder Hour. All right, folks. So welcome Dad back to the show today for this little third part of our cut-up episode. This is our regular season recap episode / what's going to be playoff preview episode. So, Dad, welcome to the show. I know you were at the game last night. How are you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad. It was a great hockey game to attend. Unfortunately, not the result we were hoping for, but very entertaining for the fans. A great crowd showed up. Energy was there from both teams, so it was a great atmosphere to be at on a Saturday night here in Tillsonburg. As I said, unfortunately, we came out on the short end of the final, but I had a great time at the game. Enjoyed myself immensely.
Yeah, for sure. I thought it was still like the game of the year candidate. Like it was back and forth. Doing the play-by-play was awesome. You got all the wild shenanigans, and we looked at one point in the 2-on-2 overtime. DeKoning on one end got bowled over by his defenseman, and then you go back to the other end, and Jesse Raymond got bowled over by Thompson. So that was the wild shenanigans, the happenings of the 2-on-2 overtime. At one point, both goalies are laying on the ice on their backs and like knocked out. It was crazy. It was a wild game. There's some big hits. I thought the teams didn't overstep like physicality wise. I didn't think it was dirty at any point or anything like that. So it was a good way to close out the season. But again, Dad, we touched on it. I touched on it earlier in the show. It's the Thunder really did back their way into the playoffs, sort of 5-game losing streak heading into the postseason. And teams like Alvidston and Stratford are on 4 or 5-game winning streaks themselves heading into the playoffs. So what do the guys have to do as we get ready for this first round to go in and be able to just flip a switch? I know it seems impossible, but they basically have to if they want to win this first round series.
Well, the good thing with these guys is they do have a veteran group. I mean, it's over now. The season's over. They still had a good season, 16-6-2, tied for Stratford in terms of points and records. I do think they are capable of doing that. It is difficult. You don't ever want to back your way into the playoffs. However, facing the adversity we faced, at least it's over within the regular season when it's not going to be in an elimination format. I think, as I said, with the last 2 years, this team has been able to make it through to the championship. A lot of these players are the same players from that roster 2 years ago. So I do think these guys are capable of doing it. I think they're going to have a lot of time to break down kind of what went wrong in these last few weeks. And I hope they can just recalibrate and get back on mission as we head into the postseason where the real hockey begins. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, this is where the real season starts, right? The regular season is your warm-up, and in senior hockey, usually a regular season is between 20 and 30 games. For the Washoe, it's 24. And, if you go 5, 7, and 7, I mean, you're almost approaching more than 2/3 of what your regular season is just in the postseason, and it's played in a much smaller time period, so time frame. It's going to be interesting. Like we both said, they really backed into the playoffs, but injuries have played a huge role. I'll talk about it right now. So for the Thunder, the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, they were without Mitch Fitzmaurice for the whole second half of the season, who got injured around December. Braden Roberts missed the last 4 games. One of our best face-off guys, heart and soul guy, scores. He was their leading goal scorer last year in terms of actually goals themselves. Big loss, Curtis Christo. Young, fast, energy guy. Again, kills penalties. He was out. We had Jamie Forsland. In my opinion, after watching him this year, he instantly became one of the best defensemen in the Western Ontario Super Hockey League. Without him, the defense was having its struggles. He's one of those guys, right? Also, Colton Wyzek missed the last 2 games of the regular season with a lower body injury. And also Andrew Whalen missed the last 3 games of the regular season with also a lower body injury. So if you look at that list, that's a long list of guys, right? That's a lot of guys. That's impact guys. That's a whole line of forwards and a whole pair of defense. So that's 4 forwards and 2 defensemen. It's wild. It's crazy to think about, but it's, every other team does deal with injuries, but to the extent of the Thunder, I'm not sure. So good news for the Thunder fans out there. We're hoping to have most of those guys make a comeback for the postseason. I think once the boys clinched their playoff spot 4 or 5 weeks ago, they were the first team to clinch a playoff spot. I think the team strategy was let those guys sit down, let them rest up, get their casts off, get their bruises healed, get the bumps gone. And most of them should be ready and back for the postseason. So this will be a completely different looking Thunder team come game 1 of their postseason first round series against Strathroy. And Dad, as you know, those 6-7 names I named can win or lose you games, right? So it's great to have those guys hopefully back, as many of them as we can.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of talent that's been missing, not taking anything away from the guys that are on the roster. They all compete at a great level. But those guys are good, talented. A lot of them are veterans. It's going to be a welcome sight to see them back into the lineup. Lord willing, they can make it back in there for game 1 against Strath. It's a tough situation, but it's hockey. It happens even in the pro ranks where you go through times in the season where the injury bug just bites and bites hard. And as I said, sometimes like the adversity that we went through with the losing streak can actually be a learning process if we take it and put it into a positive light. Nobody wants to lose 5 in a row. I understand that, and as a super fan, I'm kind of bummed out. I've had the drum going and trying to get that 7th man mentality, rally the boys. But I do think going forward, getting those guys back into the lineup and just knowing, as I said before, with this veteran team, like what is expected now that we're in the postseason, right? These guys know what it's all about. And I firmly believe getting those guys back into the lineup and the coaching staff sitting down with the boys and getting back on point for the mission, I think we're going to see a different Thunder team come game 1 against Strathroy.
I agree fully, not even just in terms of bodies, but I think in terms of the mentality, the game plan. I guess it's kind of like a football saying, like you don't want to show all your cards in the last few games of the regular season. You want to come out and you want to give everything you got in the postseason. And momentum is hard to come by, I will admit that. So the 5-game losing streak is going to be tough because it's going to weigh on some of these guys mentally. But you know what? I think that it's going to come down to the third time's a charm. 3 years in a row. This is the 3rd year of the Western Ontario Super Hockey League. And go figure, all 3 years now, the Tillsonburg Thunder are playing their first round best-of-5 series against the Strathroy Jets. So the Jets finished 12-12. They were exactly 500 on the season. Thunder and the Jets met twice this year. Once in Tillsonburg at the Thunderdome, a 4-3 overtime win. In double overtime, Jamie McQueen scored the beautiful over-the-blocker hand shoulder of Evan DeBrouwer game winner. And then in Strathroy, short bench, Tillsonburg went in there with just 14 guys and took care of business 3-2. Austin Forsyth got the game-winning goal in that contest. Tillsonburg, for whatever reason, it's like, some of these teams you watch NHL or other leagues, sometimes teams just struggle to beat certain teams. Like the Green Bay Packers always beat the Cowboys in the playoffs. Cowboys can be, 14-2, and the Packers can come in 8-8. And I know there's now 17 games. It's just part of the analogy, but it just seems to be the Jets are like the Cowboys and the Thunder are like the Packers, where whatever it is, I don't know if it's the color scheme, I don't know if it's who's on the team, but even dating back to a couple years ago in the first year of the Western Ontario Super Hockey League, the Thunder are, they've won both their first round series against them. This will be their 3rd time. Strathroy is going to be a different team this year. No Brandon Buck, Pat McNeil, 2 of their studs, but they still have good hockey players. They're still a good team. We got to see them, we saw them dismantle Alvinston a few weeks back at the end of January there in Strathroy. So obviously they're no slouch. They still won 12 games this year. But again, I look for the Thunder to bring that same mentality of, I think it's a good matchup for them because it's a team that struggles to beat the Thunder. Like if this was Stratford or Tilbury, it's a different story because you could say the skill matchup favors the Thunder, blah, blah, blah. The Thunder struggle against those teams, and we've seen it throughout the regular seasons the last couple of years and the playoffs. So I think this is a good matchup for them. I think it's a good way to get your feet wet, and I think facing a guy like DeBrouwer, although some people would argue that playing Evan DeBrouwer is not a good thing because he can probably steal Strathroy a couple of games in this series. I think what it does for the Thunder is allow you to get battle tested right away, and I think the series last year did the exact same thing for them where, they weren't coming in and playing. See, Stratford's going to have to play a Dunnville or an Orangeville or an Elora or a Delhi. And, no slag on those teams. They're still semi-pro hockey teams. But it's going to be a much different environment, atmosphere, jumping from the 8th seed to the 7th seed. I think that this will help the Thunder get battle tested because waiting on the other side of that is either going to be the winner of Petrolia and Alvinston or the Tilbury Bluebirds, depending on obviously what Woodstock and Tilbury does. So I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. The Thunder have to win this series first and foremost, and the way they've been playing, who knows? But I think this will be a good way, Dad, to get engaged early on in the postseason and get battle tested, like I said, right away.
Yeah, they have a good style against one another. As you mentioned before, both games were 1-goal games. Last year, we did beat them 3-1 in the first round. However, every one of those games was close until Game 4 when we finally kind of went down to Strath. And you and I, if you remember, were chanting a little na-na-na-na.
That was awesome.
It is what it is. That's just as fans rubbing it in a bit there. But no, I think it will be as well. Like you mentioned, a good battle test for them. We want to get our ship righted. We seem to play well against them. And as you said, sometimes facing a good quality goaltender like DeBrouwer, if we do beat them, that's going to really sharpen their resolve offensively to be able to say, look, the number one goalie in the league, we were able to put a few by him and move on. So, I mean, obviously the first task is we know who we're facing. We know it's best 3 out of 5. Let's go get 3 wins, boys, and move on from here. But what I agree, I think it'll be a great contest for them and a good way to start out. You got a great hockey team in Strathroy as well. Both teams don't really like each other. There's some animosity that's brewed up over the last few seasons in the Washel with them two teams. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think if the Thunder are able to come out, obviously it'll really help them to prepare for that second round opponent, whoever it may be at that time. But like you said, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's get engaged in this series. And as I said, let's be the first to 3 wins.
I hope so. I agree with you fully, Dad, on that assessment. I think that this series is going to be, it's not going to be easy. I could see this one going 4 or 5. Knowing the way this season has gone, it probably will go to game 5, and it'll be in overtime or something. High stress. Because Tillsonburg and Strathroy, if you look back at the history of those two teams, they have played a crap ton of 1-goal games. They play 1-goal hockey a lot. Win or lose for the Thunder, it's 1-goal hockey. Look at this year. 4-3 in overtime, 3-2 in regulation. There's not a lot of room between these two teams. I remember last year, Jake Brown got the overtime winner in game 1, 4-3 in overtime. Again, it was tight right all the way through except for game 4 in which the Thunder went in and beat them 7-1. But don't anticipate that happening this year with DeBrouwer in net. I think the Thunder getting to play, obviously, Parker in Petrolia and DeConing, both red-hot goaltenders on this weekend. I think it kind of prepared them mentally to get into that series. But I'm looking forward to it, man, because as 2 goaltenders, getting to watch the battle of Matt Sagrot or Jesse Raymond. I know Sag's still battling illness, so we'll see how that goes. But to get to see the top-notch goaltending, probably if the Thunder do beat Strathroy, and again, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but even in the second round, it will more than likely be Polidori and Sagrot again going head-to-head. Like, this is going to be awesome. And if you're a fan of the Western Ontario Super Hockey, we'll let Dad finish his thought. But we're going to talk about all the playoff series. It's going to be a dandy of a playoff this year.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking forward to. As you mentioned, we're both targets out there. And these last 2 games have been phenomenal. My boy Razors stood on his head, made over 40 saves 2 games in a row.
Yep.
And I love those 4-2, 3-2 games. I mean,
Yep.
you see some of these scores 12-2 and stuff. I mean, it is
11-10 last night in Woodstock.
It happens, right? But I mean, we know going forward into the playoffs, it shouldn't be that way. Teams are going to tighten up defensively. They're going to try to capitalize on the special teams.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that battle between DeBrouwer and Sags if he's able to go, and if not, I feel confident in my boy Razor. He's really held us in there these last couple games.
Yeah.
So this is the best time of the season. I mean, as Thunder fans, we're a little sad. We backed in, as we said, but you know what? We're still second place, still finished tied with the exact same record as the Irish. So this is, I'm really looking forward to it. You know us, we both love playoff hockey, and as long-suffering Philadelphia Flyers fans, we haven't seen professional playoff hockey for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to being able to head down to the Thunderdome and make the trip down the 402 down to Strathroy and go intimidate the Jets in their barn as well. So it's the best time of year, man. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait till we get this next weekend resolved where we have the final figured out for who the 8th seed is, and then we can sit down and break down all of the series as well. It's going to be some great hockey all through all 4 of the series. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too, Dad. I think it's going to be great playoff hockey throughout the Western Ontario Super Hockey League this year. And it's all going to start this upcoming Friday in Elora and in Delhi. That's going to be the 2 host towns for the 8 and 11 game and the 9 and 10 game. So, the 8-seeded Elora Rocks. Up and down season for them. We've had some conversations about them on the podcast. I'm sure their management has had a few conversations with our management about our podcast. I don't care. But either way, the Elora Rocks, they came into our building and beat the crap out of us. We went into their building and beat the crap out of them. So they're kind of one of those hit-or-miss teams this year. They get to play host to a different-looking Orangeville Blitz team. The Blitz last night, I think, showed some true colors in Woodstock 11-10 final. Kevin, who ended up getting 1 point shy of 70. I don't know if he did it on purpose, but he got to 69 points last year. last night. He got his goal total on the season to 42 because his Lakers scored 11 goals on the Orangeville Blitz. So, and I believe if you look at the season stats, Kevin Hu probably had, against Orangeville alone, he probably had 20 points plus out of his almost 70. So Orangeville, I know they keep making all these Instagram posts and stuff about how they're better. Well, there's only one way to prove it. Now is where the games matter, and if you want Ben Thompson and these guys to go out and win you a series, it starts on Friday night in Elora. So Elora hosts Orangeville. Obviously, I'm going to be cheering for Orangeville because I'd rather see an underdog win, as much as I don't want Stratford's opponent to be easy. It's Stratford. They're going to give a good test to whoever the heck they play. So Orangeville goes up to Elora, and it's a really close drive for those two, so it's good for that sake. And then the 9-10 game is going to be a little bit different geographically. Friday night in Delhi or Langton, one of the two, maybe even in Tillsonburg. We don't know yet. Delhi seems to struggle to get ice time in their own barn. I don't know. The Flames, sucks for them. Obviously, they had to play like 3 games in Langton this year. Not exactly home ice advantage, and that barn is tiny and cold. But anyway, Delhi is going to play host as the 9 seed to the 10 seed Dunnville Arrows. Good season, first year for Dunnville, and they have a chance to go and get within 1 win of making it to the Western Ontario Super Hockey League postseason. So this is technically the playoffs, but it's kind of similar to, if you remember the COVID season a few years ago, where the Leafs lost to the Blue Jackets, and they like to say that that wasn't technically a playoff loss for Matthews and company because it was in a qualifier round. That's very similar to this. This is a qualifier round, like the NBA play-in tournament. The stats will count as playoff stats, etc., but the 1 through 7 are the true playoff teams that are cemented. So, as I said, Elora and Orangeville in Elora, and then Dunnville, Delhi in Delhi. Winners of those 2 games will play each other. So say Elora beats Orangeville and Dunnville beats Delhi. Elora gets to then host on the Saturday, the following day, what would be the 8 versus 10 game for the final playoff spot. So if you look at the NBA play-in tournament, which is seeded, it's played the exact same way ours is played. 8 through 11 get a chance. The 8 seed pretty much always wins. So Elora, you look at the difference between 8 and 11. I think there's a big skill gap there. I think if Charlie Stevens and the guys show up, Dad, I'm taking Elora to win it. As much as I'm going to cheer for Orangeville and Dunnville, I think Elora's going to take it. What are your predictions, Dad? How do you see it going?
Yeah, I think they're definitely the veteran team. They were a top 4 finisher. Actually, they were second place last year in Washel. So they've got the skill and the ability. They've made some adjustments as the season's gone on. Maybe they've even kind of played some possum going into it. You know how the guys are. Like you said, the playoff is when you want to show up and do your best. I'm sure they ideally didn't want to finish 8th. They probably wanted to be 7th so they could solidify this. But I do agree, out of the 4 remaining teams vying for the 8th seed, my money would be on Elora at this point. The surprise underdog I also want to shout out is Dunnville. I was very impressed with them in the 2 games we played against them, and it looks like they're going in the right direction. They've got some really good skill and ability, and their goaltending is sharp as well. So in a one and done, you never know, right? Your goalie definitely can steal you one. So it'll be interesting to see. Like you, I do agree that Elora probably come next Saturday will be that 8th seed representative, but I'm looking forward to see how it plays out. And yourself and I, we may even head down to either Langton or Delhi to check out that game, just to get ourselves in playoff mode.
Get some playoff hockey going, I agree.
Definitely.
It's going to be awesome. And the winner of the play-in tournament will go to Stratford. So with Tillsonburg's 5-game losing streak, kudos and shout out to the Stratford Fighting Irish. I know that I'm not their favorite, and they're not my favorite, but kudos to you guys. That was a monumental comeback to get first place. Stratford was actually in 4th place. If you remember, Tilbury, Petrolia were the 2 and 3 seed, and Stratford ended up climbing all the way back, 4-game winning streak at the end of the year, including beating us. So it's not like they were beating all slouches. They beat Woodstock back-to-back, once in Woodstock, once in Tillsonburg for the makeup game. And they closed out their season beating the Elora Rocks yesterday afternoon. They did it. I mean, they came all the way back. They got the Mighty Expedite Trophy, and I know that all we care about, all anybody cares about is obviously the Washel Super Cup. But still, to have that achievement, hang a banner in your barn if you choose to say you were the regular season champion. When nobody foresaw that after Stratford had a terrible start to the season, Jamie Petrie acknowledged it himself. They had a really slow start. I thought, wow, these guys are not as good as they were last year. But Brulot, Stokes, Leach, Ray Robbins, all the guys, they came back. They put together a good fight. They took first place from us. Stripped it literally right out of our hands. So good for them. They're going to play the winner of the play-in tournament. So that's 1 versus 8. I'm predicting it will be Stratford versus Elora, and I think that'll be a great series because those two have played each other. If that does happen, they would have played each other in all 3 of the past 3 seasons in the postseason. And the first time they met, 2 years ago, Elora swept Stratford. Last year, Stratford swept Elora, so we'll see what would happen this year. This will be the first time they meet in the 5-game series because, as we said, both of the two of them have traditionally finished at the top of the league standings. Elora took a big fall this year. Also, Elora will be getting Theo Peckham back from suspension. If you guys remember, he hit Jamie McQueen from behind in a blowout game in Elora and got a 5-game suspension. That concluded with the game in Stratford. So he will be back from suspension. That adds a it factor. That adds a different thing because can the small guys like Robbins and Stokes, can they get that free space that they need? And I know one guy's not going to make or break your playoff series, but a guy like Theo Peckham can make a difference. And obviously another guy, Charlie Stevens, we got to see it in Tillsonburg. If he's there, makes a big difference. He is still a game changer at his age, in his ripe early 40s. He still makes a difference. So yeah, I still think I would take Stratford in that series, but we can't officially predict who's going to win because we don't know who they're even playing yet. So I'm running down all this crap about Elora and Stratford, and it might literally be Orangeville and Stratford at the end of the day. But yeah, I agree with you, Dad. Second series, we already talked about the Thunder and the 2-seed Thunder, the 7-seed Strathroy Jets. Strathroy jumped out to a really good start, fell off, ended up finishing the season 500. Not a bad season for them, but Strathroy's been a top 3 finishers, top 4, top 5 in the past 2 years. And to finish that 7-seed, they stacked their schedule in the first half of the season. So they were already at like 20 games played when some of these teams like Delhi had only had 16 games played. So they had to kind of sit back and watch everybody else catch them. And they were as high as the 3rd seed, ended up settling around the 4th seed, finished in the 7th seed. So strategy for next year, Strathroy, balance your schedule a little bit better like Tillsonburg, Stratford, other teams did. Because that way you don't have to sit back and watch everybody else catch you. As I say that as a Thunder fan when we had to sit back and watch Stratford catch us. But I'm taking the Thunder in that series. That's my prediction, Dad. How do you see that series swinging? I mean, it could go either way.
Yeah, I do think it's going to go down to the wire. I do, of course, I'm a homer, so I do think Tillsonburg will come out on top. I think they're going to right what's been going wrong at the end of this season, and I do predict it's going to be 5 games, so I think it's going to go right down to the wire. But I still foresee the Thunder coming out on top in that series.
Yeah, for sure. Same here. I agree with you. I think DeBrouwer still a couple games. Depending on how the Thunder do it, I'm hearing they potentially might give Strathroy game 1 at home in Strathroy Gemini Complex. Again, none of this is official. We don't know yet. Excuse me. Game 1 in Strathroy, 2 and 3 in Tillsonburg. Obviously, shoot. You're laying all your cards on the table, hoping for a sweep. Game 4 in Strathroy, 5 in Tillsonburg. So the home team, for those of you who don't know, gets to choose where the games are played, and then they leave it up to the other team and themselves to figure out ice times. So yeah, we're looking at potentially Strathroy game 1, Tillsonburg 2-3, Strathroy game 4, Tillsonburg game 5. So if it does come down to 5, it'll be in Tillsonburg at the Thunderdome. Win or lose, it'll be a packed house. And you guys at home are the ones who are going to have to do your part, get out, get loud, cheer for the boys, get on your feet a little more. Come on, guys. Yesterday, we had a great contest, and a lot of you guys are just sitting down. I want to see you guys get on your feet. I keep getting called out for the drum and stuff like that. Well, you guys better back me up and Dad up in the postseason.
I heard last night I wasn't being loud enough, and you know what? Hey, I'm battling a 3-week head cold, so it is what it is. But if I had 500 other voices behind me saying, let's go Thunder, it would sound a lot louder.
I fully agree with Dad on that one. So that's on you guys, Thunder Nation. We don't care if you're a melancholy, calm person. Get behind your boys. You paid $10, $12 to come out and see this hockey. Get on your damn feet, please and thank you. Because this is the postseason. This is where the drum debuted last year, was game 1 against Strathroy. So it's going to debut again this year, possibly game 2 against Strathroy. And we might even get a different drum. We don't know. We're not going to promise anything. Should be fun, though. Tillsonburg, Strathroy, Series 2. Series 3, again, you couldn't have written a better script. Tilbury 3 seed, Woodstock 6 seed. For those of you who remember, Woodstock was Plattsville last year. Woodstock and Plattsville and Tilbury met in round 1 last year. Tilbury swept Plattsville. Kevin Hu got involved in all these antics. There was so much going on. It was a tight series. I remember the goaltender last year for Woodstock, who was Plattsville. He was trying to fight everybody. It was crazy, man. It was a back and forth series. This year, Woodstock's a different team. They've added defensively. They've added offensively. I still think they struggle in certain areas like defending, although they have added those names. I think if guys like Rendazzo can come out in the postseason, I think it'll make a difference. But, Dad, I'm still going to hold firm. As much as I don't like Tilbury, they don't like me. We saw those Facebook comments after the game we played them, which is funny because I've had a lot of Facebook comments from other fan bases telling me that we're the best broadcasting team in the league, but that's all in the past. But Tilbury, I'm going to side with you guys. Shout out Mark Moffitt down there in Tilbury, always backing his boys up on Facebook, always getting the boys going. I'm going to take Tilbury in 4.
Yeah, I've got to know some of the Woodstock guys, playing some pickup and stuff with some of them guys. I respect them. I got a lot of friends that are fans of the Lakers, and I'm really impressed with the way they've made strides this year. However, that being said, like you said, there are nemesis, but I got to give the shout out in that series myself as well to Tilbury. I'm going to predict Tilbury will win 3-1 in that series. I think Woodstock will be able to at least solidify one. It's hard to stop the Hugh, man, when he gets going. He's a phenomenal hockey player. But I don't know, Tilbury, they've got that championship mentality as well. They've kind of built their team on speed, skill. Nobody wants to go down to their barn. It's intimidating down there for the players and the fans. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. As you said, with the bubbling up from last season, I'm sure it's going to spill over a little bit into this season. Different rosters, but still, they've got too much talent, I just think, on Tilbury, if their whole roster shows up, to lose that series overall. It's just... So I'm in your corner. I don't think they're going to be a sweep, but I do think they are going to take that series.
Yeah, I agree fully, Dad. I think Woodstock will get 1 game. But, again, I remember our general manager, Bill Ryan, said it to me a couple weeks ago. He said, you know what? He said, you don't win games 10-9 in the playoffs. And he's right. And Woodstock is one of those teams that's always, you look at the score sheets, they're always in these 8-7. Look at it. I mean, that's literally the score when they beat us at Tillsonburg.
Yep. It's
always 8-7. It's 6-5. It's what? In the playoffs, it's 3-2, like we saw last night. It's 4-3. It's tight games. It's everything shrinks. The offensive zone shrinks. The power plays become less often. The penalty kill becomes so much more important. The goaltending becomes way more important. That being said, I do think Ben Edwards is better than any goaltender they put out there last year. So, shout out Leaf Dietrich saying that Ben Edwards will be the playoff goaltender of the year this year. Leaf really thinks you guys are going to go deep, so you got to back him up and prove Mr. Dietrich right on that one. But all points aside, I think if Tilbury shows up with Denemy, Winkworth, Chagrincev, Montgomery, Polidori, all these guys.
Cravatin, all the boys, and of course Polidori between the pipes. I mean, as a goaltender, respect, man. He's a great goaltender.
Yeah, Polidori's the best goalie in this league still. I think Evan DeBrouwer put up great numbers this year, but I still, after watching Polidori, I still think he's the best goaltender in this league, and I'm not shy to say that. But I think if all their guns show up, we saw from Stratford the strategy. I mean, we played Woodstock early on in the season. We beat them 7-2 in Woodstock. Kevin Hu was off the score sheet. How did we do that? We put a guy named Jamie Forsland, who's 6'6", mean, on the ice, not off the ice. Jamie is a freaking amazing guy off the ice. Jamie Forsland, Brendan Barletta. We shadowed him all game. Jamie McQueen had a great night that night. Brandon Kudo and Sheldon Thompson have great nights every night, it seems like. And we beat them 7-2. They came to Tillsonburg. We were missing Forsland, I believe, or Forsland got injured in that game, actually. I don't think Brendan Barletta was there. Kevin Hu had his way. He was dancing. He was getting shifty. He was getting open in the areas that you don't want him to get open in. Woodstock beat us. We saw Stratford. They let Kevin Hu dance all over them for 2 games in Stratford. They ended up playing each other 4 times this year. The 2 games in Stratford, Kevin Hu, dominant. Stratford was not doing what they needed to do to shut him down. They come back to Woodstock and play a game in Tillsonburg. And the game in Tillsonburg we'll talk about a little bit more in depth. I didn't like Stratford's strategy. It doesn't matter. The game in Stratford, the game in Woodstock, and the game in Tillsonburg. Stratford shut down who? They shouted him all game. Cooper Leach all over him. Ray Robbins all over him. And there were some dirty hacks and slashes, but they were getting in his head. They were staying tight to him. When you shut down who? You beat Woodstock. You guys can clip that one. Zerzy, you guys can clip that one and use it as motivation. I don't care. You shut down who? I know Palillo's a great player. Palillo's riding on the coattails of Kevin Hu fully. You put anybody on Kevin Hu's line, they're going to get 40 points. Christian Palillo is an excellent hockey player. He's a top liner in this league. There's no question. But I'm just saying he's not going to win you this series. If the Bluebirds shut down Kevin Hu, they win this series. They could sweep them. And I know that that's maybe just my opinion. Nobody cares about my opinion. But, Dad, I think I'm going all day. Tilbury's going to pick up that strategy. They're going to shut down Hu. I think they're going to take this series in 3 or 4.
Yes, I agree. As we chatted earlier about that outcome of this series, Hu is kind of the one-man show. I mean, I respect, like, they're great hockey players on Woodstock. And as I said, I got to know some of these guys and know some of their fans. I really enjoy their organization. I'm glad they've moved to Woodstock.
Mm-hmm. Good move.
But the reality is, I mean, Tilbury is a good hockey team. They've got top to bottom talent. They got speed. And they have unfinished business because they have a sour taste in their mouth from what happened against Tillsonburg in the second round last year. They were the number 1 seed in Washoe last year. Pretty much a returning team, adding Banga and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I mean, I agree. They know the game plan. They're not fools. They're going to go out. And Kevin is going to be draped over all series. And I agree, unless he can somehow break free from that and do what Kevin Hu does, which is dominate and score points like left, right, and center. I do think overall, though, 5 men can beat 1. And as I said, no disrespect to the other 4 forwards and defensemen on the ice when Kevin's out there, but he is definitely the one to shut down. And I do think Tilbury, over the course of that series, will be able to do that.
Well, and I think that when it's all said and done, if you look back 50 years from now when I'm an old man and Dad's a great grandpa and all this stuff, whatever, Kevin Hu will go down as a top 5 player in the history of the Washoe. I agree that right now he's the best player in Western Ontario Super Hockey League history, individual skill-wise. So, can he steal Woodstock a couple of games? Maybe. If it goes to 5, anything can happen. But I just feel that Tilbury is a well-run organization, well-oiled machine. I'm taking Tilbury in that series, and I stand by my pick. And it's no disrespect to Woodstock, no disrespect to any of you guys. We have utmost respect for you guys. We came out a few games and cheered for you guys on the road. Because we support the Western Ontario Super Hockey League. We support local hockey, and we want to see it happen. So, but yeah, I'm taking Tilbury. Dad's taking Tilbury. We'll see how that goes. Again, forgive me. I called the game last night, so the voice is gone. Nada. Zero. So bear with us. That's why I'm holding the microphone this episode, because if I wasn't, you wouldn't be able to hear me. And some people out in Tilbury or Woodstock might not mind that. But that's shout out Mackie Moving. I'm just kidding. But anyway, last postseason series, and then we'll wrap up the show. And it's going to be the best postseason series of the first round, in my opinion. Out of all the series, this one's going to be the most entertaining. The Battle of Lambton County, the Battle of Petrolia Line, the Petrolia Squires, the 4 seed, and the Alvinston Killer Bees, the 5 seed. What a series this is going to be. I don't even know where to put my prediction on this one, Dad. I don't even think I'm going to make a stand-in-stone prediction, because Petrolia, veteran team, first year in the league, well-oiled machine type of system. In my opinion, you put Petrolia up there, you got your top 4 teams in the Washoe: Stratford, Tillsonburg, Tilbury, Petrolia. That being said, we saw Alvinston last night. Young, fast, explosive, motivated. They got that young, early 20s testosterone flowing. Petrolia's got that mid-30s testosterone that's more settled down, calm, doesn't take stupid penalties. Those 2 buildings are going to be packed to the gills. This was the best series that Jamie and Bill and the other executives of this league and all the khakis that Jamie and Bill have paid to deal with all of the paperwork and stuff. This is the best series you guys could have imagined. This is going to sell thousands and thousands of dollars worth of tickets. You're going to have people standing in the parking lot with a freaking camera on a GoPro selfie stick trying to watch the game from outside. That's how packed Alvinston and Petrolia are going to get. Dad, I don't even know where to go with this one. I'm going to take the one and only upset, and I'm probably going to get proven wrong. I'm going to take By the way, it's going 5. I'm taking Alvinston in 5. They're going to win in Petrolia in overtime, game 5.
Yeah, this is definitely, I agree with you, probably going to be the best series in the first round. They both are local to one another. They don't obviously like each other because that's what happens when you're, a local rival with the other one. Exactly.
Speaking,
so and I know speaking to some of the fans in Petrolia when we were there on Friday night, they said that the last game they had against Alvinston, the barn was just packed.
Yeah.
And I know that the game in Alvinston against Petrolia,
it was
the barn
ridiculous.
was packed. So
Yep.
it's going to be awesome to see them trading blows. I agree with your assessment as well. Petrolia, although their first year in Washel, they are WOAA team. A lot of those players have been on that team for a long time.
Yeah.
They've got a good veteran presence. I've been impressed with their games. I know we finished 3-1 against them, but every game again against them was a very tight game.
Mm-hmm.
I expect. I lived in Petrolia for 2 years, so I'm going to give them the upper hand in this one. I think they're going to win in 5, but I think it's going to be one heck of a series, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to, like I said, I got a little homerism in there in the past. Actually, that's your first WOAA game I took you to.
Yep,
was
first men's hockey
Petrolia
I ever
Squires,
watched. Yep.
right? Friday nights in Petrolia. So,
Yep.
I had a great time down there. And as I said, I had a good interaction with some of the fans down there. And I think they're looking forward to it as well. I think that kind of was already solidified even when we were down there Friday, that we pretty much knew it was going to be a 4-5 Alvinston.
Yeah, it was riding on Tilbury losing to Delhi. It's never going to happen. So
No, so it was. They were already talking about it. I was talking to their number 3 goaltender there in the crowd there, and we had a great night there. I look forward to that series. I mean, if we weren't playing, I would probably go down and check out one of those games.
Oh, I still want to. If we have
going to the Greenwood Rec Center, it's so cold. That's one of your first places to play hockey as well, organized hockey. So it's going to be a good series, and I'm glad we're able to still stream it if we can't get down there to watch any of the games in person. But yes, I do believe back forth. I agree with your assessment. Alvinston's a great young team. They've really gelled as the season's gone on. McEwen, wow. I mean, what a talent. Goaltender's playing great right now, which is what you want going into the playoffs. Oh, man. I'm like I said earlier in the podcast, and I'm like a little kid, right?
So excited.
I eat, sleep, and breathe hockey, and I'm so looking forward to this.
Yep.
It's going to be a great first round, man.
Yep. I'm so looking forward to it. The first round is always the best, and I do hope that in the future, as the Washel expands, because I know we got dozens of teams wanting to join our league, and we'll leave that to Jamie and Bill and the guys to make the right decision on who comes in and out. And obviously, we're going to focus on this year, but I hope in the future we can get a best of 7 in the first round, because I know that these guys have jobs, wives, kids, all this stuff, but this is the best. And Raji and I were talking about on the broadcast last night in Tillsonburg. Go look at every other senior hockey league. No disrespect to the OEHL. No disrespect to what Dundas and the guys over in the ACH do. No disrespect to the EOSHL, our sister league, which has joined to become the OSHL. The Western Ontario Super Hockey League is the best senior hockey league in Ontario, hands down. Best skill-wise, best goaltending-wise, best defensively. I think that in the future, if we expand and we go up to, let's say, 15 to 20 teams eventually, who knows, 5-6 years down the road, this has to be a best of 7, dude, because imagine a Tilbury and Tillsonburg round 1, or like we said, a Petrolia, Alvinston, round 1, game 7, because game 5 doesn't have the same feeling, and I know that in a best of 5, it is game 7, but it's not truly game 7. Game 7 is a magical thing, and I'm looking forward to where this league ends up. But either way, Dad, this has been awesome. Thanks for being here. That's going to take care of matters. You guys heard it here. We got the predictions down, postseason breakdown show. We will be back with you, Dad and I, for our end of round recap. And then obviously if the Thunder are eliminated in the first round, we'll still discuss possibly collabing with Andrew Rogers, maybe doing a more league-centric thing. We're still going to be watching the Western Ontario Super Hockey League no matter what happens to the Thunder. We have faith that we're going to see them hoisting a trophy this year. It's been a rough 2 years of watching them not hoist a trophy. Remember, guys, Fitzmaurice, Roberts, we got Whalen, we got Curtis Christo, Jamie Forsland, Colton Wyzek, all of these injured guys, Matt Sagrot, illness, Mike Rebry, illness, all these guys scheduled, slated to come back for the postseason. So the Thunder team you've been seeing the last couple of weeks, short bench, it's going to be a completely different look for them. And I am definitely going to say it as loud and proud as I can, Dad. Are you ready?
Let's go Thunder!
Woo!